This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening and thank you for being with us. It has been just over 2 years since a bus crash killed 17 people near Carberry. In the fallout of that tragedy, a promise by the provincial government to make the intersection between Highways 1 and 5 safer. Well, now CBC News has learned that one major issue at that intersection was highlighted 20 years ago, but nothing was done at the time because of the cost. The I-Team's Kristen Annabelle has more.
It was the deadliest bus crash in Manitoba's history. A minibus carrying dozens of people, most of them seniors, collided with a semi-truck on the Trans-Canada Highway where it meets Highway 5. The 17 who died are not forgotten. A memorial with crosses and flowers remains near the site of the crash, just down the road from Jordan Dixon's home.
My husband was out in the field that day, had seen shortly after and had called and just saw the fire, saw traffic backed up. At that point, we didn't know any details, and it was pretty heartbreaking and shocking.
With the tragedy came calls to make the intersection safer and a promise by the provincial government to make it happen by studying the intersection and weighing their options, something CBC learned was already done nearly 20 years ago. CBC obtained a 2006 report by the then NDP government, which found the intersection had several issues, including poor signage, missing median bars, tall grass, and a narrow median that didn't meet today's standards. Some would be addressed, but the report said widening the median wasn't possible due to the cost.
It's so narrow. There's enough room for one passenger car to stop and actually look both ways, but there's not enough room for a truck, especially a semi or a Super B, or especially farm equipment to actually stop and go through.
20 years later, widening the median is now one of the 3 options being considered to improve safety at the intersection.
Everybody in town has a story about the intersection. Some of them are quite tragic, some of them are scary. And unfortunately, it's almost a yearly thing where you have a story about it. And it's always been a concern.
The other options are a roundabout and a restricted crossing U-turn, known as an R-cut, the first one on the Trans-Canada, and the option many in the area oppose.
I don't know if it's a good solution for this particular location. A lot of the traffic on the Trans-Canada Highway would be crossing over Manitoba. Some of it would be unfamiliar with the area and would not know what an R-cut is.
Several consultations have been held by the government to hear residents' concerns about the safety improvements at the intersection.
There have been some concerns raised about some of the design options, and so I've really wanted to take the time to hear those concerns.
Transportation Minister Lisa Naylor said the engineers have given her their final recommendation for what safety improvements they want to see happen at the intersection. She said that information will be given to the community at a later date. Kristen Annabelle, CBC News, near Carberry.
And we now know an open house is scheduled for Wednesday evening in Carberry. That is where government officials will announce what they think is the best choice for the intersection. Well, to the province's wildfire front now, and a provincial state of emergency has now been lifted. The Premier announcing today that the emergency order would end because wildfire conditions are improving. But as the CBC's Ian Fraser reports, that doesn't mean the threat is over, as thousands still remain out of their homes.
Whoa! Driving through the intensity of these wildfires isn't what Riley Martin thinks about most. He wonders how much of Nopaming Provincial Park has been left unscathed.
It's so damn beautiful out here.
I've been thinking about all that beautiful environment, all the animals that are there, that ecosystem just being burnt, gone. That's kind of the things I've been dwelling on.
On Monday, a positive update in Manitoba's wildfire fight.
Today, we are making the decision, under the direction of Minister Lisa Naylor, to lift the province-wide state of emergency.
Manitoba isn't in the clear yet, but thanks to cooler, rainier weather, the Premier says there's progress.
Some of those emergency orders that we had around congregate shelters, security measures, supports for pets were no longer needed. We're still providing these services, but we're able to deliver them using the normal channels of government.
13,000 people remain out of their homes, a number that's shrinking. 5,000 can return to Flin Flon on Wednesday.
And I look forward to seeing everybody.
And after saving hotel rooms for evacuees, the government is now saying there's space in hotels and visitors are welcome.
You can travel to Manitoba, but at the same time, stay cautious.
25 fires are burning in Manitoba. For some evacuees who've returned home, some of these fires are too close.
People can still expect to see smoke and active flames at times.
Oh, sad for me. It's more devastating for that location.
When it's safe to return to Nopaming, Martin will see the damage for himself. Until then, he's got his memories. Ian Fraze, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Meantime, wildfires and evacuations have been wreaking havoc on Manitoba's northern courts. Court dates have been cancelled this month in several communities and First Nations. Manitoba's chief judge says the backed up dockets will create a snowball effect. They are notifying people about the cancellations on a week-by-week basis. Once closed courthouses and court locations are back up and running, court officials say most of the pressing cases will be prioritized. Well, it's being called a historic milestone for Canada's largest urban reserve. 7 Treaty 1 First Nations take a major step forward in an economic development decades in the making as a new business gets ready to open its doors. The CBC's Felicia Adam gives us a look.
With shelves stacked and gas pumps ready to go, Odina Gas and Convenience will soon welcome customers.
It's a really important day, but it's also a symbolic day. It demonstrates hope and progress for First Nations people.
It's been 20 years in the making, the first step in transforming Nawe Odina.
The gas bar is the start of something much bigger. It's the start of an economic development that's going to have economic spin-off benefits not only for our people, but the entire city, the entire province.
The gas station is much like others you'd walk into. You can fill up your tank, get a snack, a drink, but when you're inside, you'll see words written in English and in Anishinaabe-Moan.
Years ago, we weren't allowed to speak our language, and to see it, showcased in a store like this is pretty amazing.
Tyrell Corshane is from Saging First Nation, the first of many employees in the urban reserve.
It's always great, when we invest in ourselves and invest in our own future. Economically, I think it's going to be, amazing.
Nearby, you can see the start of what will be residential, educational, and cultural spaces. It's the site of the former Kapyong Barracks near Taylor Avenue and Kennison Boulevard. 7 Treaty 1 First Nations are responsible for construction.
And today marks a very powerful and exciting day of our nations coming together, working collaboratively, and creating that much-needed revenue for our people.
Chief Gordon Bluesky says it's an opportunity for reconciliation.
It's making right of the wrongs in our history, and I think for us, this is the site that I believe that's going to do that for a lot of people. I'm hoping that one day that people drive by here and not think about the urban reserve, but just think of this as supporting the economy that's here.
The gas station will officially open at the end of June. Felicia Adam, CBC News, Winnipeg.
RCMP are looking for an escaped inmate from Stony Mountain Institution. Staff at the multi-level security federal prison north of Winnipeg reported that 41-year-old Jason David Vanwyck was missing this morning. He is serving a sentence of just over 2 years for break, enter, and theft, assault with a weapon, and uttering threats. He is described as 6 feet tall, 241 pounds, with green eyes and brown hair. If you know anything about where Vanwyck may be, you are asked to call police. Well, a bit of a mixed bag weather-wise today. We started with a little bit of sunshine, some cloud cover, even a few passing showers through the afternoon. Meteorologist Colette Kennedy is tracking our weather for us this week.
Thanks, Riley. Yeah, how about that? You know, with that cold front moving through over the weekend, at least second half of the weekend, and certainly today, yeah, we had a bit of wet weather through the end of the weekend, but it's the cooler air that's been moving in. Change with that flow coming out of the northwest. So look at the daytime highs. In many cases, really a struggle getting into some of these double digits, but even just high teens for us, certainly below seasonal into southeastern Manitoba, but most of the province, in fact. So overnight tonight, we're going to have clearing skies, but actually some patchy fog development out there as well. So watch for that. A few areas with some reduced visibility, 9 degrees overnight. But by tomorrow morning, sunny skies, 11. Those winds out of the south, as they pick up out of the south, it does mean that with mostly sunny skies, we're actually going to have a much warmer day on Tuesday, back closer to seasonal, a high of 25. But then the temperatures are going to dip again and then up again. I'll fill you in on all the details of what's to come this week coming up.
The classic roller coaster. Thank you, Colette. Well, there are big changes coming to downtown Winnipeg over the next few weeks. Portage and Main will soon reopen to pedestrians for the first time in decades. But Graham Avenue is also getting a major facelift. It will transform into a pedestrian-friendly street due to changes to transit. The CBC's Zabina Ahmed has more on what to expect on Graham as buses move north to Portage Avenue.
Big changes are coming to downtown Winnipeg as it reimagines Graham Avenue. This 4-block section is currently restricted to buses and bikes only. Next week, as Winnipeg Transit changes its routes, buses will come off Graham and move to Portage Avenue. Hazel Boris from the city says the plan is to create a pedestrian-friendly, vibrant street in downtown.
To make Graham a signature street in our downtown, a place to meet on a patio, attend a market, gather for events, read a book in the shade, or walk your dog.
Winnipeg's mayor says the pilot is part of Centre Plan 2050 to get more people living and visiting downtown. He says by mid-July, Graham will have art installations and street murals.
There'll be new protected bike lanes, street fixtures designed by AN Architecture and built by Tech Box students like the one that Hazel pointed out that's just behind me in front of you. New plantings, picnic tables, ping pong tables, benches and lighting.
Kate Fensky, CEO of Downtown Winnipeg Biz, says the changes are a perfect example of a vision in action.
One of the things that I love the most about the work that we get to do is we get to try things. They may not all work, but we get to see what sticks, what people love, what draws people here to enjoy the space.
Rochelle Squires is the CEO of Center Venture Development Corp. She says downtown was growing until COVID hit.
Then came the pandemic. Momentum stalled, office towers emptied, and cracks widened, particularly for our most vulnerable citizens. Today, many of those challenges still exist, but Winnipeg is turning a corner yet again.
Gillingham says the changes would start coming into effect 3 weeks after Winnipeg Transit's new routes start. He says other cities in North America have had success with creating pedestrian-only streets and hopes this one will too. Zabina Ahmed, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Some voters in Winnipeg will head to the polls this fall to cast ballots in a by-election. A new city councillor in Elmwood, East Kildonan will be elected after the sudden death of Jason Schreier, who was first elected to city council in 2014. Residents will also vote for 2 school board trustees in the Louis Riel and Pembina Trails school divisions. The by-election is set for October the 25th. RCMP are investigating after a firefighter was attacked while battling a house fire in northern Manitoba. It happened in the community of Cormorant on Friday night. RCMP say one of the firefighters at the scene was allegedly attacked by a 29-year-old man. Other firefighters at the scene intervened to stop the attack and the suspect took off. The blaze was doused. The cause of the fire remains under investigation. The 29-year-old man remains at large. People gathered across the province this weekend to take part in events for National Indigenous Peoples Day. One of the main celebrations was held at the Forks on Saturday. The traditional meeting place served as a venue to celebrate First Nations, Métis, and Inuit culture. We caught up with some who were gathered there.
I
I've been going around shouting, happy Native Day, happy Nietzsche Day, like all day. Today feels so empowering. It is beautiful to see our communities all coming together and seeing so many different races in one place at the same time. It's not just Indigenous people here. I'm seeing our treaty relatives, our relatives that live on treaty land but may not be Indigenous, but coming here feeling welcome enough to come into the circle and make their offerings and share. That is an absolutely beautiful thing to me to see.
It means a lot for our people. It means a lot that our people are recognized, and we just want to enjoy each other. We love everybody, and yeah, it's a happy day. It's a great day for us. Learn something of our culture, our healings and our ceremonies and stuff, and why we're here.
You know, Canada hasn't always had a positive connection with First Nations in the past, and that's this changes that. It brings change, and I think that's important.
We are all one, and that it doesn't matter what your skin color is. It doesn't matter where you grew up or what your financial situation is. You know, we are truly all one. We are all deserving of respect and love and kindness.
The Canada African Cup of Nations is underway in Winnipeg. The tournament sees hundreds of players representing 12 countries face off this summer. The athletes come from countries from across Africa who now call Manitoba home. And new this year, they have invited Haiti and Ukraine to play, with the shared love of soccer bringing everyone together.
Canada Africa Cup of Nations is bringing all the communities together to unite, because that's the spirit of African communities. You know, soccer is the thing that can bring us together, and it's the language that we all speak.
From now until August the 2nd. So Brittany's taking a little bit of time off, so I am holding things down here at the desk for the next week or so. Weather-wise, bit of a mixed bag this weekend. 6 to 17 millimeters of rain in Winnipeg, parts of northwestern Ontario, 35 plus millimeters. Bit of a cooler day. Meteorologists call it, Kennedy, a bit of a reality check as well.
Thanks, Riley. Yeah, it takes a little bit of getting used to. Normal daytime highs, at least in southern Manitoba this time of year, closer to the mid-20s. And just looking at some of the afternoon readings, boy, oh boy, in some cases running 7 to maybe 10 degrees below where they ought to be, behind or kind of in the wake of that one cold front that's been moving on through. And then we get a ridge of high pressure kind of building in, and then there'll be another area of low pressure coming through too. But it's not like the whole province will be impacted. And in terms of wet weather, not a lot of that moving through. Central regions, yes, a few rain showers as this next low comes on through, and that's kind of through tonight and into tomorrow. But further south, we do stay dry, other than right around the international border where there could be a little bit of wet weather there. Then that low passes on as well, and we get into, say, Wednesday, at least some of this cloud cover pushing right back in. So I'll say some sunny breaks perhaps into Winnipeg as we move through Wednesday, but other than that, that'll be the one day where we get a little more cloud cover. Next really best chance, we could have a few sprinkles there, but the next best chance to get into some rain showers in the southeast here would be more towards Friday night and into Saturday. Winds really playing a factor here, because cooling us down in the wake of that one area of low pressure with that counterclockwise circulation, right, with the northwesterly flow. But look how they're going to be popping up as we move through the day. A little bit gusty, the winds at times, but popping up and moving around to the southwest, and that helps the temperature to pop up. And then they're going to go back down around on Wednesday, and it'll be a little bit cooler once again. So these are all the things we have to adjust to. A really nice day, closer to seasonal, a normal high 24 for this time of year, 25, mostly sunny after a little bit of patchy fog, possible overnight and into the early morning hours. Wednesday, that slim chance, especially further south towards the border or towards central areas, 22 with the cooler air because of the breeze coming more from the north to northwest. But then Thursday, Friday, yes, by Saturday, Friday night into Saturday, that chance of showers, but also look at the temperature approaching 30 degrees. It's not going to stay there. I'll have more details with the 7-day coming up.
Thanks, Colette. We have new details in the conflict between Israel and Iran. Tonight, U.S. President Donald Trump says both countries have agreed to a complete and total ceasefire and that it is to be phased in over the next 12 hours. It comes after 11 days of heavy air attacks between Israel and Iran, with the U.S. joining the conflict over the weekend by bombing key Iranian nuclear sites. In an evening social media post, he says, quote, "It has been fully agreed by both Israel and Iran that there will be a complete and total ceasefire." Trump adding that, assuming it all works out, he'd like to congratulate Israel and Iran on having the stamina, courage, and intelligence to end the war. Now, the day may have ended with Donald Trump's announcement that a ceasefire in that war had been reached. But earlier in the day, the two countries continued to attack each other. Chris Brown has more on the exchange of fire.
Amid international pleas for de-escalation, Israel carried out some of its heaviest attacks yet on Iran's capital. And most were not targets associated with the country's nuclear program, but rather its regime. The headquarters of the Revolutionary Guard was hit, as was Evin Prison, notorious as a place where political opponents are tortured.
We'll finish the job. We are fighting with precision to stop. We will only stop when the goals are fully achieved.
While Israeli officials say the aim of the war is not to replace Iran's Islamic regime, destabilizing the country may be. And so Iran released video of some of its generals who haven't been assassinated meeting with the defense minister, who foreshadowed that a response to the U.S. attacks was coming. Iran also fired more missile salvos again at Israel, triggering an unusually long alert this morning that used fewer missiles but spread them out over the whole country. Where they do make impact, damage is enormous, but casualties have been relatively low as people have followed instructions to use shelters.
My apartment, which was totally destroyed yesterday by a missile, who landed under my window. And luckily I wasn't here.
The post-bombing damage assessment of Iran's 3 nuclear sites attacked by the U.S. is continuing, but UN inspectors say they cannot get access to the deeply buried facility at Fordo.
Given the explosive payload utilized and the extreme vibration-sensitive nature of centrifuges, very significant damage is to have occurred.
The IAEA suspects Iran moved its supply of already enriched uranium, but Iran is not telling its inspectors where. Chris Brown, CBC News, Jerusalem.
So as the war in the Middle East has escalated, many Canadians have made the decision to leave Iran and head home. But as Briar Stewart reports, that journey is proving to be a challenging one.
This is the Kapaköy border gate in eastern Turkey, and it's one of the few crossings that Iranians can use to get into this country. With the airspace closed, people who want to leave, or even go in for that matter, have to go over a land border. Not only are Iranians coming over here, but also countries like Armenia and Azerbaijan. Now, the Canadian Embassy has a team here in this area on the ground helping Canadians, and that's because there's not a lot of necessarily transportation options out of here. This is a very remote area, and one of the biggest challenges the embassy staff are saying is that in Iran there's been widespread internet outages. You have people that have not been able to connect through their cell phones, so making transportation arrangements has been a very big challenge. So you have embassy staff in the area here, not only at the border, offering people rides to the nearest city, which is Van, about 90 kilometers away, but they're offering people help booking lodging or even booking an onward flight. The thing is, because you have so many people in this area, flights are sold out for a couple of days. So some people are actually choosing to get on a bus all the way to Istanbul, which is about a journey of up to 30 hours. Now, as I mentioned, there have been several Canadians that have come out today. There was one family who left from Tehran earlier this week, and then they went to the north and they stayed there for a couple of days. But as things started to really escalate, they decided that now was the time to leave.
Too much attack last night in Tabriz and even this morning, and it was very troubled. Voices and defense system and the bombing in Tabriz, and then here I heard a lot of bombing in Tehran area, and we prefer to move today morning to out of country to come back home in Toronto.
Now, a number of people are also heading back into Iran because they were abroad when this really intensified. There are a number of Iranian students who study in Turkey, who have business people that were out even on vacation. And they're headed back home, even though they know that it's a dangerous situation and there is the potential for it to escalate further. Briar Stewart, CBC News, along the border between Turkey and Iran.
To Ukraine now, where Russian drones and missiles have killed at least 10 people in overnight strikes in that country. 7 of the deaths were reported in the capital, Kyiv. Emergency crews worked to find people still believed to be trapped under the rubble of a partially collapsed apartment building. The attacks also ignited fires in the area and damaged an entrance to a metro station that serves as a bomb shelter. Ukraine's Air Force says Russia launched a total of 352 drones and 16 missiles in the overnight assault. Prime Minister Mark Carney is in Brussels to sign a security and defence deal with the European Union. Carney also visited a cemetery where hundreds of Canadian soldiers from the Second World War are buried. It comes ahead of the NATO Leaders Summit that begins Tuesday in the Netherlands. The CBC's Kate McKenna reports.
At a military cemetery in Belgium toured by the Prime Minister, Canada's long-standing relationship with Europe is clear. Nearly 350 Canadian soldiers are buried here. Now Canada has signed a new deal aimed at bringing Canada and Europe even closer.
As the saying goes, hard times reveal true friends.
Today, this is a new era of cooperation, and this will make us both more resilient and more prosperous.
The pact seeks to make it easier and more affordable to buy weapons and ammunition.
And as we build up those resources, we can do those in a way that's complementary and mutually reinforcing.
With the long-term goal of Canadian involvement in a major procurement initiative called Rearm Europe.
This partnership will allow us to strengthen our preparedness faster and better, to invest more and to invest smarter.
Canada's looking to Europe as its closest ally has been less reliable. Mark Carney is still trying to negotiate a new deal with the United States in the middle of a trade war.
The right deal is possible, but it's nothing's assured.
Next up on Carney's Europe trip is the NATO summit, where talk of the Israel-Iran war could overshadow other subjects.
When it comes to NATO's stance on Iran's nuclear program, allies have long agreed that Iran must not develop a nuclear weapon.
For years, for decades really, Iran has pursued nuclear weapons. Well, Iran has expressed a desire to eliminate the state of Israel.
The main item on NATO's Tuesday agenda will be raising the defense spending target to 5% of a country's GDP. It's a big hike as Canada and other countries struggled to meet the previous target of 2%. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Brussels.
Well, today marks 40 years since the Air India bombing after the Air India flight exploded off the coast of Ireland after leaving Montreal. All 329 people were killed. Memorials were held today across the country.
It's really important for you to be here and let your friends and colleagues know about this so we don't forget about this tragedy.
Hundreds of those on board were Canadians. As the flight approached Ireland, a bomb exploded on board. The investigation and prosecution lasted nearly 20 years. Only one person was convicted. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission made dozens of recommendations to address disparities between healthcare services for Indigenous communities and others. Now, since the Commission's report was released 10 years ago, there has been some improvement in Indigenous healthcare, but much remains to be done. Alison Northcott reports.
In this office is our physiotherapy.
Shirley P. in Barrow Bay helps Indigenous patients access care. This Indigenous health centre is a big part of that.
We have diabetic foot care clinic, we have a optometry clinic, clinical psychologist, addictions worker, we have a spiritual healer. It's Inuit, but
services are available in several languages, including Inuktitut and Cree.
The clients can come and smudge anytime they want.
In just a year and a half, the patient base has grown from 150 to more than 600.
We love seeing it more busy because we can see, okay, people start really to trusting us.
10 years ago, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission pointed to troubling gaps in health outcomes between Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal Canadians. 7 of its 94 calls to action focused on health, including funding for existing and new Aboriginal healing centres and to recognize the value of Aboriginal healing practices.
There were gaps in the health system to really understand the need of the Indigenous people.
This family violence prevention coordinator says the clinic aims to overcome mistrust because the healthcare system has harmed many Indigenous people, including her.
Because I'm diabetic and I was explaining that I'm not feeling well, and all what I explained, she just told me, when people like you feel confused and all that, that's because you're drinking. I couldn't believe it.
According to the site Indigenous Watchdog, while some of the health calls to action are in progress, others have stalled and none are complete.
There's been positive things done across the country in different jurisdictions, where they're providing funding to try and alleviate some of the issues. Just that what they're doing isn't enough.
Access is a major issue. Once this Addictions and Trauma Treatment Centre is complete, people in Nunavut can receive culturally based care without traveling south.
I'm hopeful that once this is up and running, that we have an opportunity to look at being able to build centres in each of Nunavut's regions.
But she says the needs go beyond that too, and there's still work to do. Alison Northcott, CBC News, Montreal.
With many students either done school for the year or finishing this week, attention may soon turn to a summer job. But it is already proving to be a tough summer for job seekers, especially young Canadians. Economists say it is one of the worst labour markets for young people in decades. Georgie Smythe explains what's behind the slowdown.
Highlight sort of this section and turn it.
Sho Ritko is getting some help tinkering with their resume, restructuring it, adding certificates, anything that might help them stand out in a very tight jobs market.
It's hard. It's hard. I have a spreadsheet of all the jobs that I applied to within like a 2-month period, and it was over 80, and I only heard back from 2 of those, and they were both gig jobs, so nothing stable.
Just a few years ago, Canada had a shortage of workers, but now hiring is down. Many economists blame the trade war for fueling uncertainty and say employers are reluctant to bring on new staff. Canada's unemployment rate for 15 to 24-year-olds is more than 14%. That's 1.4% higher than last year and double the national average.
You type in what you want, like part-time, full-time, and then where you're from.
While the job search might be smoother now with the help of online platforms, economists say it hasn't been this slow for young people since 2012.
A lot of people without experience are having difficulties entering into entry-level positions because there's people who have more experience who are trying to apply for those jobs as well.
Employment agencies say there's more competition for summer jobs and casual work, ones teens or young adults often fill.
It's just like getting the first job that's so hard. I've tried to apply for jobs for like a year now, and just like most places like don't get back to me, or they just like say no.
Just a real trying time for Canadians under 25, especially in their teenage years.
And he says it'll continue to be hard as long as the trade war drags on.
Getting the ship turned around for job seekers is just going to require a turnaround in the overall economic situation, which can happen quickly, but we need things to actually change on the ground.
A frustrating start to working life before it's even begun. Georgie Smythe, CBC News, Vancouver.
Have a look at these. These are some new photos of deep space through the lens of the largest camera ever built. These are the first images from the Vera Rubin Observatory in Chile. Its mission is to create an ultra-high-def movie of the universe. The observatory's camera takes pictures at 3.2 gigapixels. You would need 400 4K TVs to see these photos in full size. Back here on Earth, it was another very hot day in central Canada, with much of southern Ontario and Quebec continuing to roast under soaring temperatures, with several heat warnings remaining in place.
Early morning walks, lots of fluids, reading books, and using fans.
Try to get the dog out early.
I love it.
I love it. Yeah, nothing better. It's been a long winter, and we love the heat.
Temperatures reached well into the mid-30s. Tack on the humidity, and it felt more like the mid-40s. Toronto is offering more than 500 air-conditioned spaces for residents to cool down. The city handed out thousands of water bottles, and several public pools are open until the heat mornings end. Montreal also has public facilities open to help cool down, including pools, beaches, and air-conditioned libraries, with people encouraged to stay hydrated and be on alert for early signs of heat exhaustion. So some oppressive heat there, and Colette, nothing like the temperatures that we've seen here in Manitoba.
Yeah, that's right, Riley. Some extreme heat, certainly a vast area included in the heat warnings across Ontario and into Quebec. Many records falling, including today at Pearson, up to 36 degrees for Toronto. The old record was down there in the low 30s, 32.8 from 1983. So that heat kind of peaking today, at least in Ontario, but still at least one more day there and into Quebec of getting into that heat, or that kind of heat with these humidex values there up into those mid 40s. So absolutely oppressive. Then closer to home, you can see this area of low pressure here into northern parts of Manitoba, and that's kind of tracking eastward. Then another one setting up coming out of Alberta and along that cold front into Saskatchewan with some that rain shower activity that will push towards central Manitoba. The winds are important because, I mean, cooling us down with the northwesterly flow today. Then between those two systems, we will have them spinning around and coming more from, first of all, the south to southwest tomorrow, gusting 20, 30, maybe towards 40 or even 50 kilometers an hour into the afternoon, but helping to push our temperatures back closer to seasonal for the daytime highs. So actually a pretty nice day setting up all across southern Manitoba for Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, there'll be some cloud cover pushing back in. And not only that, but dealing with a system that's going to push those winds around again. So this is the ups and downs of this week, with the winds playing that role that's affecting our temperatures. So Wednesday, the temperatures come back down a little bit. Certainly some cool readings tonight to the north. We're talking about single digits all around. And in terms of tomorrow, there's that bit of wet weather with this next system moving through that just kind of wants to track right through the central part of the province. And then further south, we're staying drier and finally getting those temperatures back up there and get some mid-20s coming back. Coming off of the summer solstice, hours of daylight, yeah, we're still over almost 16 and a half. Okay, we never quite get to 16 and a half, but some significant hours to get out there and enjoy tomorrow after a bit of morning fog. This is Willow from David and Angie. What a sweetheart. Is that a little bit of white there, or just the lips? So cute. And I love those dark eyes. Look at that. And in terms of your dog walking forecast, hey, no red paws here, no yellow paws. It's all green light, go, get out there and enjoy it.
All right, thank you so much, Colette. And you can keep sending your pics to talkback at cbc.ca. Well, as we showed you earlier, big changes are coming to Graham Avenue this summer. Starting at the end of the month, buses will be moving off of Graham and onto Portage Avenue. It's part of the massive Winnipeg Transit reorganization. Now, the plan is to make Graham Avenue more focused on pedestrians, and part of that makeover are new benches that are being made by Tech Voc high school students in their welding shop. Jim Agapito gives us a look.
Graham Avenue. For decades, this street has been a bus, bike, and pedestrian-only transit corridor in Winnipeg. But with Winnipeg Transit's plan to modernize the existing system, bus routes will be moved, making way for a pedestrian corridor. And some students will have a hand at shaping the way it looks.
You're going to hold this here, we'll see how it looks. I'm Tony Bage. I'm the welding teacher here at Tech Voc High School.
What do you call this exactly?
We just call them city boxes for Graham Street, the Graham Street City Box Project.
How many of these did you make?
We made 40 of them. We made 40 of them all together. I think there's going to be 4 of these benches going downtown. This is just the Core 10 steel. There was a jig that we made that put it together, tacked it all together. And then these fine young gentlemen here, they did the vertical down welding, butt welds.
What was the process like to get involved? Because obviously there's collaboration there between the city, the school, yourself, so tell me about that.
Well, my vice principal approached me with an architect that was in charge of it, and they threw out some ideas. We collaborated with what would work, what wouldn't work. and came up with some nice ideas.
Get it nice and even all the way around.
Well, first of all, when they saw the designs, they couldn't even figure out what the heck it was, so I had to kind of draw something to make, okay, this is what it's going to look like. We asked the architect for another picture, so they got an idea. Okay, now because they just thought it was just a metal box, but when they saw the end product, they got really excited. And as we were putting them together, we came across, certain issues that we had to figure out to make it work better. So that was a good learning thing for the students, how engineering, designing works. Here, the instructor part of it was just, they already knew the welding processes, so it was just getting them to work together as a team and then see the benefit of it after.
Hi, my name is Chris Manis. I go to Tech Block. I'm 17 years old, and I'm in welding. So first we started off with the metal, and we plasma cut it to make the squares into the boxes. And then when we aligned it and we tacked them together, and then we had some of our guys just weld them all together and get it not perfect, but as close to perfect as we can. And then we grinded it down, made it look smooth, so we could align them up together and make the benches. It honestly makes me feel great knowing that my people are represented throughout the city and that these will be a part of it. Those are the 7 teachings on there. We want that to represent that it's Canada and that lots of people here are First Nations. It's exciting because in 10, 20 years, I'll be able to tell my kids, maybe even my grandkids, that I helped make those benches and I put that there.
My name is Jacob Ironstand Scott. I'm 16 and I'm a welding student here at Tech Block High School. I was pretty stoked that I was going to be making something for the city of Winnipeg. The group who did it, we had to practice numerous times on vertical down welding, and it kind of took some time to get it right and the right speed and the right temperature to do it so we don't burn right through the material. It feels very special that not only the 7 teachings are getting acknowledged, but that Indigenous students get to do it here at Tech Block.
They're going to be able to go downtown and they're going to be able to see this project for hopefully, a very long time. They'll be able to show their friends, hey, we worked on that. I'm just proud of them and they've come this far. A lot of them are grade 12 students will be graduating. So this is a perfect year-end project for them.
Welcome back. The story of the week is going to be a little bit of an up and down with our temperatures. Warmer tomorrow, a little cool down, and then really building as we head towards the weekend. Let's show you how that plays out. So closer to normal for tomorrow with a high of 25, sunny skies after some fog overnight tonight, and then cooler with some cloud cover and a slim chance of showers on Wednesday. Then that heat builds. Yes, flirting with 30 degrees Saturday, but take heart, we don't stay there. It's kind of one day only, and then the temperatures moderate once again. Riley.
All right, thanks, Colette. Well, climbers from Canada and the United States put on a show this weekend in Edmonton. It was all part of the North American Cup series of sport climbing. The goal, race up a wall in mere seconds and, of course, be the first one to reach the top. What it takes to be a speed climber is our daily lift.
Speed climbing is like the 100-meter dash of the climbing world. Athletes are climbing a 15-meter wall head-to-head, 15 meters up the wall in 4 or 5 seconds, which is pretty crazy to see.
I don't have a climbing background like a lot of the other athletes. I came from a gymnastics and track and field background. And then in 2021, I started climbing just at a local gym. And the national team head coach for speed climbing happened to work there. And so I kind of just got drafted into the program and honestly never looked back. I love it. I like to describe it when I'm explaining it to people like running across a tightrope. You have to be so precise on all of your foot placements, and the best athletes in the world slip all the time.
Athletes come from all over Canada as well as all over the United States for this event. This is that stepping stone between the national championships and a World Cup event.
Nothing is going through my brain, honestly. Most of the emotions are before and after. I don't really think of anything during. About 2 years ago, I was competing in bouldering and lead only, and I decided why not sign up for speed. I did okay, and then wanted to train it because it was really fun, and here I am.
It is absolutely growing. It's pretty crazy to see. Even when I started just a couple of years ago, the level of competition that you see here today was not even close. It's an amazing feeling. I've done a lot of sports, and there's none of them are as rewarding as speed climbing.
That is crazy. I don't know. I really want to know what the secret is to getting your body to move that fast, because I certainly can't move that fast if I'm even on straight ground. That is our program for this Monday. Thank you so much for being with us. We'll see you again tomorrow. Have a good night.